Okay, so like a year ago, I created, or well, like a year and a half actually, I created the Doctor Who Companion Legacy for The Sims 4, and I very recently updated it to include Ruby and Belinda. And I thought it would just be fun to kind of go through each generation and explain all the requirements that I thought up. Yeah, just explain it all basically, my thought process and how I think it all connects to the show. There's also 3 bonus generations, which we'll get to as well. Let's start with the general rules. They're not that crazy. It's basically the heirs don't need to actually be like the character. So like the Rose generation heir doesn't need to be a blonde white girl. Like it, none of it really matters. You can do what you want in terms of that. I recommend normal or long lifespan. I'd recommend using as few cheats as possible. I've listed all the traits in the order that I would prefer that they got those traits. So like the Rose generation, you can see down here. As a child, they get that trait. As a teen, they get that trait. And as a young adult, they get that trait, right? There's a little story situation going on. So there's a connection with each generation, but you don't have to do it in that order if you don't want to. It would make a little difference in what I have in my mind for some of them in terms of like how many siblings they have and stuff, but like it doesn't really matter for the most part. If a generation doesn't have many or any baby or romance specifics, then assume you can do what you like. I've tried to be as clear as possible in terms of the relationships you get into and the children you're supposed to have. So if something isn't listed, it's an intentional that it's not listed, and it means you can just do what you want. And finally, basically all of this is just a guide, and you could do literally anything. It doesn't matter. You should just do what you want in order to have the most fun. Okay, let's get into the actual generations. Generation 1, I'm gonna read through all of it, like the entire thing, and then we'll talk about what it all means. You aren't sure what you're doing with your life. You have a tiny home, a rubbish part-time job, and no real plans for the future. You're starting to think that's what your whole life is going to consist of until one day you begin to notice the new town you've moved to might be called Strangerville for a reason. People are acting weird and keeping secrets, and no one seems to want to sort it out, so you decide the person to do that will be you. This hunt for answers gives you a new purpose and kickstarts a love for all things science and aliens. Aspiration, Strangerville mystery, traits, jealous, outgoing, generous, career, retail employee, then scientist, world, Strangerville, and color, pink. Live in Strangerville trailer park until your aspiration is complete. Work a part-time job as a retail employee. Complete the Strangerville mystery aspiration before becoming an adult. Join the scientist career as soon as possible after completing your aspiration. Create a portal and visit Sixum. Have at least one alien baby. Max the logic skill, complete the alien collection, and reach the top of the science career. So the thought process for the Rose generation is basically like, it's just an introduction to everything. Like in the show, series 1 is like Rose and us are being introduced to aliens. So I feel like Strangerville kind of fits into that perfectly. Like the founder basically discovers aliens, falls in love with it, and that represents what happens in the show for Rose and also for us as the viewer, right? And then obviously retail employee, she starts out as a retail employee. When we meet her, her job gets blown up, and then scientist felt like the perfect job in terms of her falling into that world proper, because it does become her life pretty much. Create a portal and visit Sixum. This it might be a bit of a reach, but I think of like in series 2 when they go between parallel worlds, and then in series 4 when she comes back from a parallel world. That's what I think of in terms of going through a portal. And then obviously Sixth alien planet, she traveled with the Doctor and went to alien planets, like hello. And then have at least one alien baby. In my mind, this represents her relationship with the Doctor. A lot of these generations do have a Doctor kind of figure in them, who is like a character, a sim, who is intended to represent the Doctor, and that's kind of what this is for the Rose generation, just having a baby with the Doctor. Obviously, she does go on to have babies with 10-2 if you're into extended universe stuff. But yeah, the alien baby is supposed to represent her and the Doctor literally having a little alien baby. I don't know, I just think that's kind of fun to just have an alien baby running around. And then the like max the logic skill and complete aspirations and careers. There's an asterisk on all the requirements that in my mind are kind of optional. Like you don't have to max skills and jobs and stuff if you don't want to. Like I know some people don't really care about that stuff. So I've just put a little, you know, you don't have to do that if you don't want to, but it's there if you want to do that. Oh, and the color pink. Basically every generation it has a color. Mostly they're based on like outfits that the companions wear and kind of the color that first comes to mind when I think of that companion. Obviously there's like 15 generations, so I had to get a bit creative with the colors. Sometimes the color might feel a bit random, but I tried my best to have some association there. Rose being pink was like so obvious to me. Why would it be anything else? I'll show a couple of outfits as well if I remember with each generation, like what I had in mind, but I thought, oh yeah, that color is the one. Oh yeah, in terms of traits, jealous, outgoing, generous, that's literally Rose. She's so jealous. The Doctor will talk to anyone. She's like huh? Like she's like side-eyeing them. And then she's also outgoing and generous because she'll like chat to the aliens. The thing that comes to mind for me is series 2 where she's like, oh, she says to the ooh, like, do you get paid or something like that, I think. So yeah, that's why I want that. Like kind of a negative trait, but then a couple of good traits as well. Okay, generation 2, Martha Jones. If growing up with a scientist parent and the stories of how they freed Strangerville taught you anything, it's that there's a lot of stuff out there that needs finding, containing, and keeping track of. So you decide to make it your job to ensure that happens. It's not your whole life though. There are other things that are important to you as well, like love and adventure, and you do your best to make sure your job doesn't take over and leave no time for those things. Aspiration, academic, traits, genius, romantic, self-assured, career, military, world, any, color, burgundy/dark red. If you're an alien, be stealthy about it in public at work, get a psychology degree, fall in love with someone who loves someone else more or who you are more attracted to than they are to you. Go on at least 3 vacations in your lifetime, marry a co-worker, have only 1 child, max the research and debate skill, max the fitness skill, max the logic skill, reach the top of the military career, complete the academic aspiration. Okay, so for Martha's generation, the main focus is more on what she becomes after meeting the Doctor. So like she was in unit, so that's kind of what the military career is supposed to represent. And there is obviously also stuff pre the Doctor, so fall in love with someone who loves someone else more or who you are more attracted to than they are you is supposed to represent the Doctor. So if they love someone more, they obviously love Rose more in the show. In this it wouldn't be that, because that would be crazy. But yeah, you can do either one of those. What I probably am going to do when I get to this is go into cast, change the partner's likes and dislikes and like attraction things to like things that are the opposite of this era. So like maybe they hate the color red, which is bad because they're going to be wearing a lot of red because the color of this generation is red, you know. Obviously Martha wears a red leather jacket, that's why I went for red with this generation. Her traits, I wasn't fully sure with the traits. I think the thought process here was she's a genius, she was going to be a doctor in the show, she's clearly romantic, she loved the Doctor a lot, she like really fancied him. So I think that works. And then self-assured is kind of her like coming out of that and being like, no, I'm back in myself, I don't need to be pining after the Doctor, like I'm cool, like it's fine. That's kind of what the self-assured is in my mind. Marry a co-worker represents her marrying that Tom guy, I guess. No, yeah, that is what that is, yeah. Yeah. And then have 1 child. This kind of doesn't matter. Like, do I think Martha would only have 1 child? I don't really know. I don't really care. It kind of is for the next generation. That's what I mean when I've been specific about having children. Like, I've done this, have 1 child, because it is important, like, in my mind for the next gen and how they connect to each other. Whereas with the Rose generation, you have at least 1 alien baby, but other than that, you can literally have 10 kids if you want. It doesn't matter. And then obviously, if you're an alien, be stealthy about it in public at work and in public or at work. That's just in case you have the alien baby become the heir, because they're in the military. It's like if they're not an alien, then it's just like, oh, I have an alien sibling and my mum knows about aliens, so I find that stuff important. But if they are an alien, then it's like, I am an alien, therefore I know alien stuff, therefore I know I need to keep these things in check, but I need to be careful about who I share that information with, you know? Okay, generation 3, Donna Noble. Your young adult life doesn't start out being what you thought it would be. There's an incident with a partner who turns out to be evil, you can't find a full-time job, living with your parents long past when they envisioned you'd be living with them starts to break down your relationship, but somewhere down the line it starts working out. You find a passion in a job you enjoy, a stable relationship that makes you happy, and a child you dedicate your life to protecting. You do still get under your parents' feet, but they don't mind as much now that you're making something of yourself. Aspiration, computer whiz and or super parent. Traits, mean, loyal, family oriented. Career, any part-time job, then tech guru. World, same as Gen 2, then any. Color, purple. Live with your parents until you die. I mean... Live with your parents until they die. If you want to move towns, you have to wait until your parents are dead. Have a rocky relationship with your parents from young adult until you get married. Play the lottery regularly. Get into a relationship with an evil sim. Propose to the evil sim within 2 weeks of dating. Get left at the altar or have your partner die before the wedding. Find a new partner and marry them. Join the tech guru career, but only once you've started dating your future spouse. Have only 1 child after marriage. Max the programming skill. Max the parenting skill. Reach the top of the tech guru career. Complete the computer whiz and or super parent aspiration. Okay, so for this generation, I've tried to include Donna's rocky relationship with Sylvia specifically, the fact the Doctor gives her a lottery ticket, and Lance being a demon, and then also her smartness, and then her daughter Rose. That's basically the vision. Live with your parents until you die and then move in towns only after they die. That is, we see her still living with Sylvia in the 60th, so that's kind of what that represents. And then obviously their rocky relationship until you get married. It's kind of like once her life is on track, things kind of start going better with Sylvia, which I think in the show is kind of represented because they seem to have a better relationship in the 60th compared to what they had back in the day, which I don't know if that's necessarily because of the marriage. It's probably more that like Sylvia felt bad because her daughter lost all her memories, but you know, that's what we've got here. And then play the lottery. Obviously, I'm not sure how often the lottery is in The Sims, but like as often as you can play it, I think you should play it. Get into a relationship with an evil sim. This is representing Lance here. Obviously, they have a little whirlwind relationship. And then get left at the altar or have them die before the wedding. This is kind of like, it depends on how much you want to meddle. So like you could set up a situation that makes the partner die, but if you'd rather not do that, you can just have them leave you at the altar for whatever reason you cook up, right? And then the new partner is meant to represent Sean, who she's within the 60th, and then they have one little kid, Rose. I kind of am thinking maybe I should have like have only one child, and I should have maybe said name them after the Generation 1 founder, because obviously Rose is called Rose after Rose. I don't know, maybe you could do that if you wanted, I don't know. And then these are just skills, whatever, who cares. Yeah, that's her generation. I like this generation. I think it's fun. Generation 4 and 5, we've got Amy and Rory. Obviously they are in the show together all the time, so their generations had the potential to be very samey. So what I've done is Generation 4 Amy kind of represents the version of Amy if their divorce in series 7 stuck and she kind of went on to become famous. And then Generation 5 is kind of Rory's ideal relationship of big family picket fence life in whatever their town is called in the show. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I've done with these, and the start of the generations kind of are very similar and they kind of diverge during like mid-young adulthood. But we'll get into Generation 4 first. Generation 4, Amy Pond. Despite your loving family growing up and the best friend turned significant other that worships the ground you walk on, you can't help but feel there's something missing and you want more than the cozy little life that they want. You pretend for a while. There's a whirlwind proposal, wedding and pregnancy, but it's not long before it gets too much and you have to start putting yourself before the people around you. You don't just want to be some small writer, you want to be a celebrity and you want to live like one. Aspiration, world famous celebrity and or master actor / actress. Trait, creative non-committal self-absorbed. Career, freelance writer then actor. World, Chestnut Ridge then Del Sol Valley. Color, orange. Oh, the color purple for Donna, did I go over that? She's just so purple. Anyway. Max the childhood creative skill, make your imaginary friend real, have 2 BFFs growing up and start dating one of them as a teen, move to Chestnut Ridge with your partner as soon as you become young adults, get proposed to as soon as possible after moving and get married within a week, cheat on your partner once between the proposal and wedding, get pregnant on your wedding night and name your baby after your other childhood BFF, get divorced as an adult, have a negative relationship with your ex which you actively make worse, after divorce, move to Del Sol Valley, join the actor career, don't pursue another serious romantic relationship, max the acting skill, max the writing skill, reach the top of the acting career, complete the world famous celebrity and or master actor actress aspiration. Okay, so yeah, this is the version of Amy where the divorce stuck, she becomes famous, she leaves the little town, she becomes, you know, big actor. Her traits, creative, non-committal and self-absorbed. Obviously as a child she like is making all these crafts. Oh my god, I should add to max the paper mache skill because she literally had like little toys made. I might have to add that in. I'm gonna add that in. Make your imaginary friend real. The doctor literally was her imaginary friend and then he showed up and was real, so I don't know what you would want to do with that imaginary friend, you know, you can do what you like with them I guess, but you need to make them real. Well, you don't need to because I put an asterisk because I know some people, you know, maybe that's like, yeah, maybe you don't know what you would do with the imaginary friend, which is why I put the asterisk there. But yeah, have 2 BFFs growing up and start dating one of them as a teen. This is obviously Amy, Rory, Mel's. They're like a little trio and then she dates one of them, Rory. And then everything happens really fast. Proposal, young. She gets scared. The cheat on your partner is her kissing the doctor in the Angel episode, and then getting pregnant on your wedding night, which is literally what they did. Naming your baby after your other childhood BFF, literally what they did. Get divorced as an adult, which they did in series 7, and then they had kind of a weird relationship. I don't know if she actively made it worse, but like, you need to actively make it worse. After the divorce, this is where the famous life starts. Move to Del Sol Valley, join the actor career, and then don't pursue a serious relationship. Do what you like. This is another generation where I haven't been too specific in terms of babies. The only baby I've been specific about is the one you have with the Rory sim, the sim that represents Rory. But other than that, like, just because you don't have a serious relationship, but that doesn't mean you can't have like 3 other kids if you want to have 3 other kids. Like, you can do what you want, you know? In terms of worlds, actually the vision kind of here was kind of just like rural world followed by kind of a town, which is the same here No, that's a lie. A rural world not followed by a town is what the next generation is. You could switch this out for like Henford-on-Bagley and San Myshuno if you wanted, like whatever. And then color orange, Amy is ginger. That's literally it. I think this is the only generation that isn't based on outfit. Like, Amy is literally just ginger, and that's why I went for orange. All the other colors were taken. It just made the most sense. So yeah, that's what we've got. Generation 5, Rory Williams. Your parent points out to you how your life is shaping up to be like theirs. They had two childhood BFFs too, and started dating one of them, and all you can think about is how badly that worked out for them and how much you want it to work out the opposite way for you. You want a big happy family, a picket fence, and maybe a dog to go with it. You know just wanting it isn't enough to make it happen though, so you put in the work to show how dedicated you are to this kind of life. Also, you have a tendency to get into accidents and narrowly avoid death. Aspiration, soulmate and or elixir enthusiast. Traits, romantic, socially awkward, chased by death. Career, naturopath. World, Henford-on-Bagley or Innisgreen. Color, green. Have two BFFs growing up and start dating one of them as a teen. Move to Henford-on-Bagley with your partner as soon as you become young adults. Propose as soon as possible after moving and get married within a week. Get pregnant on your wedding night and name the baby after your other childhood BFF. Have various farm animals. Go on a date with your spouse at least once a week. Have at least 3 biological children. Adopt 1 baby/infant. Complete the village fair ribbons collection. Complete the Innisgreen ingredients collection. Max the natural living, gardening and apothecary skills. Reach the top of the naturopath career. Complete the soulmate and or elixir enthusiast aspiration. Okay, so the vision here, obviously, Rory in Amy's Choice was like desperate for that little village life, so that is what I've given him. Again, the star is the same up until naming after your childhood BFF. That's the same as the previous generation, but then with this you stay in Henford-on-Bagley or Innisgreen and you have just a big farm. You're dedicated to your wife, you have lots of kids. The baby infant is supposed to represent when Amy and Rory leave in the middle of season 7. There's like this little extra story basically where Rory sends his son, who him and Amy adopt, to like share the information with Jesus Christ, with Rory's dad that they won't be coming back because the angels took them. So that's supposed to represent them that adoption basically. And yeah, the rest is just like skills and collection stuff. I really love the idea of this generation, just like a big farm life, you know. Obviously in the show he's a doctor. In this challenge Belinda is going to be a doctor, so I switched it up so that he kind of is like he's still doing like doctory things, but it kind of fits in more with the farm life to be a naturopath, I think. And then green, I think he wears green like one time in the beginning of season 6. So he's green. I was struggling. He was one of the last colours I did because I really wasn't sure. Generation 6, Clara Oswald. For the most part, your life is average. You're a minimum wage worker with a dead parent and your significant other is a co-worker. But then you meet a mad spellcaster who you try to just stay friends with and tell your partner not to worry about, but ultimately you're too drawn to them to keep away. Aspiration, spellcraft and sorcery and or purveyor of potions. Traits, bookworm, flirty, perfectionist. Career, babysitter, then education. World, any. Colour, gold/mustard. Have at least one parent die of something that isn't old age. Get a part-time job as a babysitter as a teen. Reach the top of the babysitter career. Date a fellow teacher as a young adult. Make friends with a spellcaster. If you and your partner are living together, have your partner and spellcaster friend be enemies. Eventually cheat on your partner with the spellcaster and leave them for them. Become a spellcaster. Make at least 2 clones of yourself. Become enemies with your spellcaster partner's best friend. Never get married. Max the research and debate skill. Complete the magical artifacts collection. Reach the top of the education career. Complete the spellcraft and sorcery and or purveyor of potions aspiration. The vision for the Clara generation is basically she is obsessed with the doctor and she wants to be the doctor. That's like what it is. Also, they're in love, and if you disagree, you're wrong. So we start with obviously early series 7. We find out that Clara's mum is dead. So basically you need to kill either the Gen 5 heir or their spouse in some way that isn't old age. So you're gonna have to do a bit of meddling there. Part-time job as a babysitter as a teen. Obviously she isn't a teen in the show when she looks after those kids, but it kind of makes more sense for her to just be a teen and be a babysitter here. Date a fellow teacher is obviously Danny Pink. Make friends with a spellcaster, obviously representing the doctor. If you and your partner are living together, have your partner and spellcaster friends be enemies. I specified the living together thing because like it might just be a pain to make that happen if you're not living together, but like if they are living together, then you can have the partner be nasty to the enemy. I mean, be nasty to the spellcaster and have them be enemies, but if you don't live with them, then that'll be a bit more difficult. Eventually cheat on your partner with the spellcaster and leave them for them. Obviously, you know, does Clara do that in the show? I'd argue no. But I think it works for this to have it straight up just be you cheat, because I think emotionally she was there low key, right? So I think that works. And then become a spellcaster kind of represents it, how she leaves the show. She kind of goes off. She doesn't become a Time Lord, obviously, but she gets the TARDIS. She has a companion, kind of, in that Me is with her. So I think that works. And then make 2 clones of yourself. It obviously represents the impossible girl thing, and how there's millions of versions of her. What you do with those clones, that's up to you. I want to have, like, the spellcaster sim be in a relationship with all 3 of the Claras that there are, which I think is kind of crazy, but I think that'll be fun. But yeah, I don't know what, I think I've never messed with the spellcasters really, like, too much, but I think the clones will be your sim's siblings, so it'll be like the Clara heir and 2 sibling clones, basically. Yeah. I just think that's fun. Like, I couldn't not have some clones going on. Become enemies with your spellcaster partner's best friend is basically just Clara having a bad relationship with Missy initially, and then never get married. I just think it's, like, would be devastating if she loves this person so much and she never gets married. Kind of like in the show, her and the Doctor clearly love each other so much, but they never, like, nothing happens. Like, she has to leave. Like, oh god, it's so sad. Yeah, so that's what that is, and then this is all the skills and stuff. Her traits: bookworm, flirty, perfectionist. That, like, yeah, that just works in my mind. Bookworm, she reads a book at one point in series 7. That's so dumb. I don't know. Bookworm just, like, makes sense to me. She's also a teacher. Flirty, because she has her flirty moments. And then perfectionist is kind of like, oh, what is it? In, like, series 8, she's, like, not stuck up. What is it they say that Clara and the Doctor are chatting in deep breath and they're, like, arguing about something. Whatever. I think perfectionist works for whatever I'm thinking. I'll try and put it on the screen if I figure out what the hell I'm talking about. But yeah. And then education, obviously education, career, whatever. She becomes a teacher. Golden Mustard is the series 9 outfit. Under the lake before the flood. That's the outfit. That's my favorite Clara outfit. So we're going gold mustard. Okay, Generation 7, Bill Potts. For a while, you think a fast food employee is all you're destined to be, which is fine, you guess, but you kind of expected more. On a whim, you apply to university, and before long, you're moving in, making friends, falling in love, and changing your whole life for the better. But it also changes for the worse, with a friend turned enemy cursing you with something you tried to make the most of, but ultimately have to dedicate part of your life to recovering from. Aspiration: friend of the world and/or cure seeker. Traits: cheerful, foodie, outgoing. Career: fast food than any. World: Britechester than any. Color: silver/grey. Get a fast food part-time job as a young adult. Reach the top of the fast food career. Don't apply to university until after the fast food career is complete. Live in a Britechester shared house while at university. Become best friends with one of your professors. Make a werewolf friend who later becomes an enemy. Become a werewolf against your will. Date someone at university but break up before graduating. Get a degree. Go on at least 2 dates with 2 different sims. Go on at least 3 nights out with your university professor friend. Reconnect with your university ex as a mid to late adult. Give up life as a werewolf once reconnected. Max the charisma skill. Reach the top of a career. Complete the friend of the world and/or cure seeker aspiration. Okay, so the vision for the Bill Potts generation is basically she starts out not knowing really what's up, like what she's doing, and then university kind of changes her life like the Doctor changes her life. She meets a professor like the Doctor who she becomes really close with, but she also makes another friend who betrays her, who is supposed to represent the Master. Obviously live in a Britechester shared house. That is like knock knock when she lives in that house for a little bit with those people. Become best friends with your professor. That's the Doctor. Make friends with a werewolf who later becomes the enemy. That's the Master. Become a werewolf is supposed to represent her becoming a Cyberman. I put in here become a werewolf against your will, but, like, I don't think you can against your will become a werewolf. I think you have to, like, agree to be turned. I don't have the werewolf back, so I don't actually know. So you might have to just pretend there that it was against their will. The dating Jesus, where is it? Date someone at university but break up before graduating is supposed to represent, what's her name? Oh my god, what's her name? Heather. Oh my god. Yeah, that's supposed to represent Heather, and then reconnected with them and then giving up your werewolf life is supposed to represent Heather returning to Bill and saving her after she's turned into a Cyberman. Yeah, that's what that is meant to be. I did any for a job after fast food because I'm not really sure what Bill would do. Initially I had it as astronaut, but then I was like, I don't know. So you can just do what you want. I'm sure your sim will have a specific vibe and you'll be like, yeah, that job sounds good for them, or maybe they're rich enough that they don't need a job. Yeah, and I haven't specified what degree you have to get either. You can get any degree you want. Her traits: cheerful, foodie, outgoing. Foodie is just because she worked in fast food for a bit and I think she likes chips. That's like, I don't really know. Cheerful, she's so cheerful. That's like literally Bill Boss. And then outgoing, she's very chatty, all she does is chat. And then this is kind of sad, but Silver and Grey is just like a Cyberman. I feel a bit crazy about that one, but also I feel like a bit of a genius. Like, that's kind of funny because Bill could be any color. I think initially I had her as purple, and like she could be any color because she wears such colorful clothes, but I think having her be Silver and Grey is like, damn, you know, that's kind of crazy. Yeah, that is the Bill generation. Generation 8, Graham O'Brien. You're known for two things, making food and making jokes. You don't go anywhere without a sacked lunch, and you always have a dad joke on hand. You can't imagine why it takes so long to find the true love of your life, and why do they have to be gone so soon. Aspiration, master chef or angling ace. Traits, dance machine, glutton, cringe. Career, culinary, world any, color, brown. Take a sacked lunch every time you go to work or on a day out. Have at least one child. Teach your heir child to ride a bike. Don't meet the true love of your life until you're an elder. Throw a big wedding and dance a lot. Have your spouse die before you do. Max the dance, cooking, gourmet cooking and fishing skills. Complete the fish collection. Reach the top of the culinary career. Complete the master chef and or angling ace aspiration. Okay, the vision for Graham is basically he likes food and also he teaches Ryan to ride a bike. And then obviously he meets Grace very late in life, but she dies. His traits, dance machine, glutton, cringe. Literally, like, hello, what else would his traits be? Do you know what I mean? That is so Graham. World any, literally who cares. Culinary, that's just kind of because he likes food. I don't really think Graham has it in him to be a chef like in the show, but I think it works for The Sims. Color brown, he wears a brown jacket sometimes, and I was like, yeah, that works. Take a sack lunch every time you go to work or on a day out. He like brings lunches when he travels with the doctor. He like had a sandwich in his pocket and it takes you away. Like, he needs a sack lunch all the time, okay? Have at least one child. Teach your heir child to ride a bike. So the vision here is the Graham heir is in a relationship with someone and has a child with them, and that child is the heir, and you teach them to ride a bike, and that is supposed to represent Ryan, because obviously in the show he helps teach Ryan to ride a bike. And then the true love of your life that you don't meet until you're an elder is supposed to represent Grace. And then you have a big wedding and it's really cute and you dance. And then obviously having your spouse die before you do, you could just cheat so that they are a couple of days younger than Graham is, or you could have an accident happen and, you know, mess things up for them. Basically, it depends on how much you want to meddle. But yeah, then the rest is just like a lot of skills and stuff. Yeah, this is kind of a symbol generation. I didn't really know what Graham I found difficult. I also found Yaz, Ruby and Belinda quite difficult to do, but I did think that like the sack lunch and the like food aspect and the meeting your love as an elder was obvious for Graham. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then the fishing thing, by the way, that comes in because like they fished for a bit in Rosa. That's really where that comes from. Generation 9, Ryan Sinclair. As a child, your parent taught you to ride a bike and it kick-started your love of sports. As a teen, you became clumsy and it knocked your confidence. As a result, you pursue a job in social media, which you definitely enjoy, but it's not quite your childhood dream of being an athlete, and spend some time not doing any active things at all for fear of failure. Eventually, you gain confidence in yourself and decide to dive back into sports by hitting the slopes in Mount Komorebi. Aspiration, extreme sports enthusiast. Traits, active clumsy bro. Career, manual labourer. Social media and athletic. World any, then Mount Komorebi. Color teal. Have a poor relationship with your non-heir parent. Get a part-time manual labourer job as a teen. Have a basketball hoop. Don't work on your aspiration until at least the middle of young adulthood. Reconnect with a BFF from childhood/teenhood as an adult. Meet your significant other in Mount Komorebi. Move to Mount Komorebi. Quit your job and become an athlete instead. Have at least 2 children. Max the video gaming skill. Max the skiing, snowboarding or rock climbing skill. Reach the top of the athletic or social media career. Complete the extreme enthusiast aspiration. Okay, the vision for Ryan is basically he loves sports, but he is dyspraxic and it kind of throws him. But then he eventually kind of gets his confidence back and becomes very athletic again as a like adult. So traits, active clumsy bro. This is part of why the trait order is important, because he's active as a child, but then it's when he's a teen that he gets hit with like the clumsiness and like not feeling too confident. That's why it kind of throws him to become clumsy, right? The jobs, basically the idea is you could stay in the social media career or you could switch when he becomes confident and change to the athletic career. That's kind of up to you. I think it would make more sense to switch to athletic, but like you can do what you want, which is why I've got an asterisk down here. You don't have to quit your job as a social media influencer if you don't want to, but you can. And then moving to Mount Komorebi, again, you don't have to do that. It depends how much you want to lean into the athletic vibe. Reconnecting with the BFF from childhood is supposed to represent him meeting Yaz at the beginning of series 11 after not seeing her for however many years. Have a basketball hoop in series 12. He like plays basketball with his friends. You know, I love Ryan, I really do. Have at least 2 children. This is specifically for the next generation. So you can have 10 children if you want, as long as you have at least 2. But yeah, that's Ryan's generation. It feels like another simple one, but I really like it. I think it'll be fun. Okay, generation 10, Yasmin Khan. You love your job, but you can't help but want more. One day you meet someone who throws you into a world of vampires and might just give you the more that you've been wanting. Aspiration, master vampire. Traits, gloomy, loner, ambitious. Career, detective, then reaper. World, any, color, red. Don't have any friends as a teen. Become BFFs with a high-ranking vampire. Fall in love with them, but don't make a move. Become a vampire. Quit your detective job for something that's more you. Move in with your vampire BFF. Reveal your romantic feelings in mid-adulthood and have at least 1 child. Complete the tarot cards collection, max the vampire lore skill, reach the top of the Reaper career, and complete the master vampire aspiration. This generation, especially the little fucking bio, is very simple. I really wasn't sure what to do with her, to be honest. All I really had in my mind was like she needed to meet someone who she loved but didn't make a move with until later on in her life, and that person needed to change their life. Basically, that's really all I had in my mind, which is why I went for a vampire. So basically the vampire that she meets is supposed to represent the Doctor, and they're friends for ages. Her becoming a vampire is similar to how the Clara generation, you become a spellcaster. It's a similar thing where you want to be like the Doctor, so you literally become a different thing. So she becomes a vampire like Clara became a spellcaster. Quit your detective job for something that's more you, specifically Reaper. To my knowledge, the Reaper career is a positive thing. You kind of are helping people, you're helping ghosts, containing ghosts, which I think works with Yaz's thing. Like, she wants a job that gives her more of a purpose, and I think Reaper is more purposeful than being a police officer, and it's more like it fits more in with the Doctor, like to have a unconventional Reaper job than just being a police officer. I think that works. I like that. Reveal your romantic feelings in mid-adulthood and have at least 1 child. That's just like, you have to just leave it really late before you have them get into a relationship. They're just going to live together as best friends for a really long time, basically. And then finally reveal that they like each other, and then have at least 1 child just to, you know, continue the challenge. Yeah, I've gone for gloomy, loner, and ambitious for her traits, because I think as a child and teen she was lonely, but especially as a teen. That's why I've gone for loner as a teen. And then when she gets older, she gets ambitious and she wants, you know, she wants more. That's her whole thing. She wants more. And then color, red. She wears like a red top in series 13 that I kept thinking of, so I went with red for her. It might be hard to differentiate between red and dark red sometimes, you know, because the Martha generation is dark red, but that's like 8 generations ago at this point, so that's a big gap, you know. I think that's fine. Okay, generation 11, Dan Lewis. Helping people and animals has always been in your nature, so no one is shocked when you move to Sulani as soon as you are able to pursue a job in conservation to not just help the few people around you, but hopefully the entire town, and you do most of it with a dog at your side. Aspiration, friend of the animals. Traits, good, dog person, friendly. Career, conservationist. World, Sulani. Color, black. Always have at least 1 dog. Be BFFs with every dog you have. Have the Gen 12 heir with a sim who later leaves you at the altar. Marry someone else that you've known for a while as a late adult. Donate to charity at least once a week, even if you can barely afford it. Have 1 near-death experience. Max the pet training skill. Max the logic, handiness, and charisma skills. Reach the top of the conservationist career and complete the friend of the animals aspiration. So the vibe with Dan's generation is he likes dogs and also he loves to help people. The dog in the question obviously is supposed to represent Carvanista from series 13, and the helping people kind of represents him working at the food bank. To my memory, he like, they offer him food and he doesn't want to take the food. That's my memory. I haven't rewatched series 13 in like a minute, but that's my memory of it, so that's why I went with this. Like, he puts people before him. That's why I put donate to charity even if you can barely afford it, because that feels very Dan to me. Have the Gen 12 heir with a sim who later leaves you at the altar, and then marry someone else you've known for a while as a late adult. Partly this is supposed to represent Diane, so he meets Diane. No, he knows Diane for a long time, and then they eventually get together in series 13, right? So that's what that's supposed to represent. And then, but this is just to ensure that you have a child before you get with this person, and it kind of fits in with the next generation. So the idea is you have a child with a sim who then leaves you, and they leave the kid with you, because for the Ruby generation you need to not have a relationship with your other parent. So that's why that's there. Have 1 near-death experience is supposed to represent him leaving the TARDIS. So in Power of the Doctor, he's like, that was a close one. I need to stop traveling with you. That's kind of what that's supposed to represent. I put an asterisk next to it because it's maybe a hard thing to purposely do. It depends on how much you want to manipulate things and really, like, I don't know. So that's why there's an asterisk there, because I don't know how easy or hard that will be to do. He could just die. and then you might have to bring him back to life or whatever you want to do. But yeah, that's that. Generation 12, Ruby. She doesn't have a bio because I literally don't know anything about this girl. So I just didn't put a bio. Aspiration, musical genius and or romantic explorer. Traits, music lover, cheerful, outgoing. Career, entertainer. World, any world where there's snow. Color, pale/khaki green. Don't meet or properly spend time with your non-heir parent until your late teens. Have an imaginary friend but don't make them real. Get betrayed by your first partner as a young adult. Embrace the snow every winter. Go on dates with at least 5 different sims. Max the guitar, violin skill. Max the piano skill. Reach the top of the entertainer career and complete the musical genius and or romantic explorer aspiration. I really struggled with this generation, I'm not gonna lie. Like, really all I know about Ruby is that she likes music and there's a snow situation. So that's kind of the focus, obviously, and she didn't know one of her parents. That's why you need the parent to leave in the previous generation, because the Ruby generation needs to not have a relationship with them until she grows up. So that kind of represents her finding her parent, like she found her mum in the show. And then have an imaginary friend but don't make them real. Initially I had make them real, but because the Amy generation has the imaginary friend thing, I was like, no, don't make them real. And also that makes sense because basically this is supposed to represent 73 yards and the woman, how like no one could see the woman. But then eventually the woman's gone anyway, which is why I said don't make them real, because it would be weird if the 73 yards woman then became an actual person that everyone could see, because that didn't happen. Get betrayed by your first partner is supposed to represent Conrad. Embrace the snow. Obviously, get betrayed is very generic. I would probably just have him cheat or something, but like, you know, it's generic for a reason. You could do literally anything. Embrace the snow is supposed to be her weird snow power. So basically just like have days out in the snow, make snowmen, do snowy things, right? Go on dates with at least 5 sims is another 73 yards reference where we just see her date a lot of people and try and go out with them, but it just doesn't stick because obviously she has the woman following her. And that's it, other than skills and stuff. It's a symbol generation. It's probably my least favorite. I might add more to it eventually if I really think of more. Like I am due a rewatch for sure, so if I rewatch and like cook up things in my mind as I'm rewatching, then I might add a few bits, but that's what we've got for now. Okay, and then the final main generation, we've got generation 13, Belinda Chandra. Similar to your parent, you have a tough time with love at a young age. It puts you off romance for a while and you dedicate much of your life to your career, putting it before almost everything until one day you meet someone who shows you that there's plenty of fun to be had in exploring and getting close to others. Aspiration, paragon partner. Traits, proper genius, romantically reserved. Career, doctor. World, any. Color, yellow. Oh, also, I just realized I didn't talk about the colors for Ruby or Dan. So basically, Ruby wears like khaki green trousers and then a jacket one time. So that's where that's come from. And then Dan wears like a lot of black. He has like a black jacket and black t-shirt at one point. It's like a full black on black on black combo. So that's why Dan is black. Yeah, anyway. Back to Belinda. Date a sim you have bad compatibility with as a teen and break up with them as a young adult. After your breakup, spend most of your young adulthood focused on your career and your relationship with family members. Eventually make friends with someone who enjoys adventuring /getaways /vacations. Go on at least 3 vacations /getaways with that sim and don't get into another romantic relationship until you've done that. If the sim you decide to get into a relationship with isn't your vacation enjoying friend, then once you enter the relationship, you must end contact with the vacation enjoying friend. Adopt 1 child. Max the logic, handiness and charisma skills. Reach the top of the doctor career. Complete the paragon partner aspiration. The vision here, in series whatever it was, Belinda spoke a lot about like not wanting to be with the doctor and wanting to like go back and see her parents and stuff, which is why I've got the focus on your career and your relationship with your family members. I also think she like said about how she like loves her job and stuff. So data sim you have bad compatibility with is supposed to represent the guy in the Robot Revolution. And then after that drama, Belinda basically goes on to just focus on her relationship and her family, and then eventually she meets the sim who enjoys adventures and stuff, representing the doctor, and that person is like kind of gets her out of that and is like makes her realize, oh, you know, I could maybe meet someone. The reason I've included this section about, so basically you meet that vacation sim. If you don't want to date that vacation sim, then you need to, once you find a relationship, you need to break things off with that vacation sim and stop being friends with them. That kind of represents the end of the series in my mind, where the doctor obviously leaves Belinda and goes off and regenerates and they never see each other again. That's kind of what that is. But then if you want to switch it up and actually have them get together, then just ignore that, obviously. I guess it kind of depends on the dynamic your sims have and maybe also how you see the Doctor and Belinda's relationship in the show, if you want to have them get together or have them not get together. Adopt one child. This is supposed to represent Poppy, which I think that makes sense. I think that's cute, because they didn't really have her, did they? She's so I feel like adopting her makes more sense. Or she could be like a science baby. That could be better. Her traits: proper, genius, romantically reserved. I wasn't really sure. I've used genius before, I'm pretty sure. I'm not very great at choosing the traits. I'm gonna be so real. I think it's because a lot of Doctor Who companions are very samey. If you're going for their core traits, they're all like good people, and like there's not much variety there. I think that's why I found it difficult at a certain point. But genius, yeah, she's a doctor, obviously. Proper, I kind of just pulled out my ass. Romantically reserved is for the relationship kind of changes her and makes her a bit more cautious. And then the color yellow is her dress in, what's it called? Lux? Yeah, that's her dress in Lux. That's what I think of when I think of Belinda. Okay, now onto the bonus 3 generations. These generations don't have bios. They're just requirements and like traits and stuff. Okay, bonus 1, Captain Jack Harkness. Aspirations: serial romantic. Traits: materialist, flirty, kleptomaniac. Career: criminal. World: any. Color: dark blue. Have at least one child that doesn't live in your household. Have at least 4 close friends. Drink a potion of youth before aging into an elder at least once. Max the mischief, programming and charisma skills. Reach the top of the criminal career and complete the serial romantic aspiration. This generation is very simple. Traits: flirty, romantic, materialistic. That is so Jack. Like, don't tell me that's not Jack. Dark blue is his coat. Criminal career, obviously. Serial romantic, obviously. He flirts with everything. Have at least one child that doesn't live in your household. Is supposed to represent, is her name Alice? I think her name is Alice, his daughter from Torchwood. Have at least 4 close friends is supposed to represent the Torchwood team. And then drink a potion of youth is supposed to represent him living a long time. There are other ways you could do that. Like you could just have him be a vampire, or like, I don't know, you could have him take the potion a lot of times, but I think that's just the simplest way because we've got vampires and stuff before. And then the rest is just traits and stuff. Bonus 2, River Song. Aspiration: archaeology scholar. Traits: bookworm, romantic, self-assured. Career: writer. World: any. Color: white. Get a language and literature degree. Don't become close with parents until your degree is earned. Spend more time exploring the jungle than writing. Explore as much of the jungle as possible. Have multiple long-term partners before finding the one. Have at least 2 spouses over the course of your life, with the final spouse being the one. Have a small wedding with the one, inviting only your immediate family. Go on a date night with your final spouse once a week. Don't move in with your spouse until you're a late adult. Die and have your spouse bring you back to life. Max the archaeology and writing skills. Complete the artifacts and treasures collection. Complete the fossils collection. Complete the archaeology scholar aspiration. Okay, so the River generation focuses on her getting a degree and her being an archaeologist, and then her relationship with the Doctor. Don't be close with your parents until your degree is earned is kind of supposed to represent her obviously not knowing Amy and Rory that well, and them not even knowing that she's her daughter for a really long time. So you kind of have to hold off on the relationship. Spend more time exploring the jungle than writing is just like, when I think of her, I think like she can write a book, but when I think of River, really you think more about how she travels and stuff than the fact she's a writer, which is why I included that. Have multiple long-term partners before finding the one. Have at least 2 spouses over the course of your life, with the final spouse being the one. The one obviously is the Doctor in this situation, and having multiple long-term partners and at least 2 spouses is supposed to represent how she, like, even though the Doctor is the one, we know she has a life outside of the Doctor. She mentions like a couple of wives and stuff, so like that's why I've included those requirements. Have a small wedding with the one, inviting your immediate family is supposed to represent the wedding of River Song and how only Amy and Rory were there to watch the wedding. Go on a date night is kind of supposed to represent Beryllium a little bit, but also kind of just how the Doctor and River would see each other and like in like little bursts, right, rather than living together all the time, which is why I said don't move in with your spouse until you're a late adult. So like you're seeing them maybe once a week for little dates rather than living with them 24/7. Die and have your spouse bring you back to life. I put an asterisk on this one because that's like another tough one to do, unless you just wait until they die of old age and then have them bring them back to life, which I guess you could do that. And then the rest is just like skills and stuff. I quite like this generation. I think it's fun. Yeah, I like that generation. Okay, the final bonus generation, bonus 3, Nardole. Aspiration: master maker. Traits: childish maker, paranoid. Career: freelance crafter. World: not Henford on Bagley, then Henford on Bagley. Color: rusty orange. Oh, She's white, by the way, because of her outfit when we first meet her in series 4. Anyways, decorate your home with things you fabricated. Be a freelance crafter. Create and activate at least one servo and name it after the Gen 7 heir. Marry a sim from Hempford-on-Bagley and move there. Max the fabrication skill, max the robotics skill, complete the master maker aspiration. Basically, the focus here is that he is like, he's kind of like a robot-y guy, right? Like, I don't know if he's a robot, but he's like not a human, even though he looks like a human. So that's kind of what the fabrication is. It's kind of like partly him, like who he is. But also, like, we see him in series 10, he's like cooking up bombs and stuff. Like, he's like a crafty guy. He can like make stuff. And then create and activate at least one servo and name it after the Gen 7 heir. I just really wanted to get Bill being a Cyberman in there. So like the Gen 7 heir is the Bill generation. So you're gonna have a Bill bot, a Bill Cyberman servo around, basically. And then marry a sim from Hempford-on-Bagley and move there is supposed to represent the woman he stays with when he doesn't get off the ship in series whatever it is, series 10, and they live on in like a farmy place, which I think Hempford-on-Bagley works the best for that. But yeah, that is that generation. Color rusty orange because he has a rusty orange coat that he wears in promo images. His trait is childish, maker, and paranoid. Well, again, I explained about him making stuff. Paranoid is meant to represent him like being sus of the Doctor leaving Earth, and then childish, just like he has such childish vibes, like, let's not even lie. But yeah, I kind of feel like fabrication and robotics kind of conflict with each other, because fabrication is to do with like making stuff yourself and like being eco-friendly and stuff, but then robotics is kind of like, doesn't feel like that works, but like it's kind of whatever. But yeah, that's the entirety of this challenge. I've never made anything like this before. Like, I've done a couple of changes to it and updated it over time, but well, I was gonna say mostly the same, that's a lie. It has changed quite a bit, but it isn't like too far from what I initially envisioned. But I'm proud of myself for making this. So I have attempted this challenge myself like twice now. The first time was I started it as a YouTube series, but then just like I put it on a different channel, and then I was like, no, I want to make my own Sims channel, so then I deleted it and was like, I wasn't happy with it, so I stopped. And then in January I started it again just for myself, and I didn't finish the generation because I kind of got distracted with other saves, and it's been so long since I played it. So I think I'm gonna start the challenge again from the beginning and do it as a YouTube series. I'm not sure when that's gonna start, but at some point I will be doing this as a series, and I'm really excited by it because like I can't make a challenge and then not do it. Like, third time's the charm. It's gonna be the one. I'm excited to get into it. I don't know if I'm gonna do any additions if we get another series of Doctor Who, which honestly at this point, are we even going to? I don't know. I also, all of this is subject to change. Like, there's a reason I've got an updates log here, because I want people to be able to look at the post and be like, oh, the last time I checked this out is September of 2025. It's now a year later. I should check again, make sure there's not been any updates. Because I could update things. Mostly the only updates that from now on will be done potentially are additions, like small additions to the Ruby generation or the Belinda generation. Like, for the most part, I'm like pretty happy with all of this, and it won't really be getting changed. It's just like the most recent two where I'm like, they could have a bit more. But yeah, that's the Doctor Who Companion Legacy Challenge. I will leave a link to this post in the description. If you want to watch me play this challenge, then like subscribe, and I will be doing it at some point. I'm gonna wait until I'm done with a generation of what I'm posting right now, so it might not be for a couple of months yet, probably at least. But yeah, I do want to make this a little series. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one.